Okay, just to give equal time to the third morning show, Meet the Press, I'm going to show Chuck Todd's interview with Donald lying Trump. And he calls Ted Cruz a liar, but this guy is the biggest liar and procrastinator and spinner that you've ever seen in your life. And I'm going to break in each time he does something that I obviously disagree with.
Mr. Trump, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Good morning.
I got to start with what...
Now, look at Donald Trump's face. He knows he's going to be in for some questioning, and he's got such a sour look on his face. I mean, I know it may be early in the morning, but Jesus Christ, that face is ridiculous. Anyway, I'm sorry. Here we go.
What's been happening over the last 48 to 72 hours? Do you accept any responsibility whatsoever for the escalated tension that takes place at your rallies?
Well, I think if anything, a lot of people have praised me for canceling the one rally. We had 25,000 people coming. We got a lot of them not to come through notice. And the rest of them we canceled because we had disruptors out there. That they weren't really protesters, they were disruptors. They were like professionals. They had Bernie Sanders signs all over the place, and they were made by Bernie Sanders people. I mean, these were professionally made signs. And rather than going, which I could have done pretty easily, I would have gone, I would have made a speech, you would have had an awfully big riot, and a lot of people would have been hurt. And I've been given a lot of credit for not going, and everybody dispersed, and nobody was injured or hurt or beyond that.
But
now that's bullshit, because he's chicken shit. There's no way that he was going because the numbers of the protesters were rivaling the numbers of his supporters. So he would have never been able to give a speech, and that's the honest truth. So, I mean, if he said he wouldn't have been able to give it, I could have went with him on that. But he's full of shit as far as it would have been easier for him to go. It was easier not to go, and the civil service probably told him that there was no way they were going to let him attend that rally.
you know, earlier in the week, and look, earlier in the week there was an incident between a supporter of yours and a protester, and I want to play a piece of sound from a couple weeks ago from you and ask you about it on the other side.
There's a guy totally disruptive, throwing punches. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
Mr. Trump, 17 days later, that actually happened. One of your supporters decided to sucker punch a protester. Do you accept any responsibility for creating this atmosphere?
I don't accept responsibility. I do.
Exactly. He doesn't accept any responsibility for churning his guys up to the point where they actually start taking physical action against people. So, you know, he said that out of his own mouth.
Not condone violence in any shape, and I will tell you...
he does condone violence. He's telling people that he wants his supporters to actually physically attack the protesters, and he's also said that if somebody does it, he'll pay their legal fees.
From what I saw, the young man stuck his finger up in the air, and the other man sort of just had it. But I still...
Right. And the guy did acknowledge that he absolutely did stick his finger up in the air, his middle finger, but that was after Trump said for him to go home to his mommy, and unfortunately the guy's mother had passed away. So basically he was giving the finger to Donald Trump. And if you notice, the guy was 3 steps down when he gave the finger to Donald Trump. And if you notice the guy that sucker punched him, he was making his way over to punch the guy long before the guy hit the steps that he was on when he was struck. So, you know, that's bullshit in itself.
I don't condone violence. As far as my previous statement, we had somebody that was punching and vicious and gone crazy.
And there is absolutely no video from anybody anywhere, and with all of the people with cell phones, you know, taking video, absolutely there should have been or would have been something on social media showing the protesters punching and kicking and doing all this. Now, as far as vile language is concerned, that's absolutely probably something that did take place. But before that Friday situation in Chicago, none of the previous protesters that are on record are being shown, have been shown as punching and kicking and being physically intimidating towards anyone other than shouting out their preferences. So again, you know, if he's so smart and he's so sure, he should have video to back up his statements, but he doesn't.
Disruptor, they're not protesters. I'm telling you, they're disruptors. They're professionals. And he went absolutely wild punching. And frankly, when they punch, it's okay. When my people punch back because they have to out of self-defense, everybody says, oh, isn't that terrible? The fact is that we have very peaceful rallies. I've had many, many rallies. I have 25, 30,000 people coming to rallies. And out of that, we have very, very little problem. We haven't had a real injury or anything. And then Chicago, I canceled, and I did a great thing by canceling it, because who needs the problems? Who needs people getting hurt? I didn't want that.
But when you say,
instead of getting...
But Mr. Trump, when you say, you know, if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, seriously, just knock the hell out of them, I promise you I'll pay for their legal fees. How is that not condoning what this older gentleman did to this protester?
Absolutely.
Well, let me explain what happened. We were told before, just as I was going up on the stage, I was told by the Secret Service, sir, there's a person or two people in the audience that have tomatoes. They are going to throw them at you, we think. If they do throw them, you have to be prepared. Now, you get hit in the face with a tomato, let me tell you, with somebody with a strong arm, at least, let me tell you, it can be very damaging, not good. So I was told people were in the audience, two people with tomatoes, that they're going to throw them at me. What I did is I say, by the way, if you see anybody with tomatoes right at the beginning, you got to stop them, do whatever you want to do. I have no objection to what I said. I would say it again. People are there doing harm. You have to go and you have to use equal force.
Okay, now I got a question, and this is just common sense. If the Secret Service knows that there are two people with tomatoes that are going to potentially throw those tomatoes at Donald Trump, don't you think that the Secret Service would have ejected those two people before the fact? Okay, it's called screening. But apparently Donald Trump doesn't have the Secret Service people who screen potential problems with people in the audience. This guy thinks everybody's stupid.
It's not fair. It's a one-way street.
I'm just curious, do you plan on paying for the legal fees of this older gentleman in North Carolina who sucker punched the protester?
Well, I'm not aware. I will say this. I do want to see what that young man was doing, because he was very taunting. He was very loud, very disruptive. And from what I understand, he was sticking a certain finger up in the air.
Now, for those of you who don't know the whole story behind this, there was a group of 4 people that were at that North Carolina rally. Okay, 4 were together. There was an issue because the gentleman that was the one that stuck his finger up in the air and got accosted, he was talking to a female that came with them. The female made a quote-unquote derogatory comment about Donald Trump. Someone a couple of rows away started going back at her, and security noticed this immediately and came down. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever the case may be, instead of ejecting the guy that was going back and forth with the woman, they ejected his friend, the woman, and another person happened to be white. Okay. The 5th person that they ejected was from the Washington Post. He was a reporter, and he had nothing to do with the 4 people. He was just there basically to cover Trump. So anyway, as they're walking up the stairs, Donald Trump basically says that they should go back to their mommies. Okay, and again, one of the guys, the guy that got sucker punched, his mother had passed away, so she wasn't living. So he took offense to that and gave the middle finger to Donald. And it was after that, okay, a good 2 or 3 seconds after he gave Donald the finger, that that 79-year-old white guy sucker punched him. So, and everybody that investigated would have discovered that information. And today's Sunday, and Donald Trump is still running with the bullshit that he doesn't know exactly what was going on. But, okay, later on, you're going to find out how fast his people were able to get full background on the guy that apparently charged him yesterday while he was giving a speech. Incredible.
That is a terrible thing to do in front of somebody that, frankly, wants to see America made great again. And so we'll see. I'm going to take a look at it. But I want to see what that man was doing.
And that condones a sucker punch, though?
No, as I told you before, nothing condones. But I want to see. The man got carried away.
Right.
He was 78 years old. He obviously loves this country. And maybe he doesn't like seeing what's happening to the country. I want to see the full tape.
So you
but
might
I don't
pay for his
condone
legal
violence.
fees.
I don't. Well, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see, you know, what was behind this, because it was a strange event. But from what I heard, there was a lot of taunting, and a certain finger was placed in the air. Not nice. Again,
Right.
I don't condone the violence. I don't condone what he did. But you know what?
So it's possible
not
you
nice
could,
on the other side either.
it's possible you could help him with legal fees if this man needs it.
I've actually instructed my people to look into it, yes.
Okay, I want to ask you about the moment yesterday in Dayton. Looked like a scary moment, being rushed to the stage. I want to ask you, you said you praised the Secret Service, but then you said the man had ties to ISIS. That turned out to be a hoax. Did you go over the top there on that? Where did you get evidence?
No.
Okay. Now, this is the first time that Chuck is going to tell him that it turned out to be a hoax, which it was. This guy had no ISIS affiliation. He was not, whoever put this thing up, they were pretty fast and they did a good job. But there were no ISIS affiliations. He was not dragging the American flag on the ground. It was a total phony post. And Chuck Todd just told him that for the first time.
No. He was. If you look on the internet, if you look at the clips, when he's dragging an American flag.
Okay, that's the second time that Chuck Todd is telling him that it was a hoax.
Somebody made that up, sir.
That's the third time.
Well, I don't know what they made up. All I can do is play what's there. He was walking, dragging the American flag on the ground. Is that a correct statement? Was that a hoax too? Was he dragging the flag on the ground and just dragging it along?
I'm talking about the ISIS
Well, you didn't see the clip. No, excuse me, you didn't see the clip. He was playing Arabic music. He was dragging the flag along the ground, and he had internet chatter with ISIS and about ISIS. So I don't know if he was or not, but all we did was put out what he had on his internet. He's dragging the flag, the American flag.
Okay, and they got all of that information from a tweet where somebody made a phony post about him doing all of that. And if they had investigated it, okay, they would have found that out. But they were so ready to go with something that supported their narrative that once they saw it, they just ran with it.
Which I respect, obviously, more than you. He was dragging the American flag on the ground like it was a piece of garbage, okay? I don't like that, and a lot of people don't like that. And he also had chatter about ISIS, or with ISIS, and you take a look at it. I mean, people are looking at it very seriously now, but you have to check it before you ask the question.
Well, no, that's what we have checked it. That's my point, sir. There's no ties to ISIS for this man, no law enforcement official, and this video that you linked to appears to be a hoax.
That's 6 times that he's told him that it's a hoax. But because it's not fitting his narrative, for whatever reason, Donald Trump isn't hearing what Chuck keeps telling him. And the other problem I have with him is how the hell does Donald Trump knows how Chuck Todd feels about the American flag? So that was a derogatory comment that Chuck just let pass. But Trump is full of shit.
Okay, you just, look, well, was it a hoax that he's dragging the flag? Was that him? It looked like the same man to me. He was dragging a flag along the ground, and he was playing a certain type of music, and supposedly there was chatter.
It was a hoax.
Now, I don't know. What do I know about it? All I know is what's on the internet, And I don't like to see him.
Oh, so now he's saying, what does he know about it? He's claiming that he knows what he's talking about, and now he's saying that he doesn't know what he's talking about. So Donald Trump, like I said, is full of shit. He'll say whatever hits his mind, and he can reverse himself within a matter of seconds on just about anything.
And dragging the American flag along the ground in a mocking fashion.
All right, I want to. Marco Rubio said some pretty tough things about you yesterday. I want to play it and get you to react to it on the other side.
He doesn't want to say anything to his supporters because he doesn't want to turn them off. Because he understands that the reason why they are voting for him is because he has tapped into this anger. When the person you're supporting for president is going around saying things like, go ahead and slap him around, I'll pay your legal fees, what do you think's going to happen next? Someone's going to actually literally believe it and take it upon themselves.
Marco Rubio, right? Are you afraid to tell your supporters to back off?
Look, first of all, Marco Rubio has the worst voting record in the United States Senate in many, many years.
Here come the Rubio attacks.
He's defrauded the people of Florida. He won't even show up to vote. And I want to tell you, for him to be talking like that is absolutely a shame. I have great support. I have great support. It's far greater than you understand. The fact is, if you look at the polls going in for the primaries,
yeah.
if you look and the caucuses, we're up 65 and 70%. Some are up 102%. Millions and millions of people are energized. They're going in and voting. And by the way, that's not for Marco Rubio, and it's not for Lion Ted Cruz. That's for Trump. I mean, they're there. They're voting for Trump because they want to see America be made great again.
But I want to back this up.
Anybody else get tired of him not answering questions when they're put to him and start talking about something else? Jesus.
Trouble.
I understand that, but I want to button this up a little bit because this violence on the campaign trail, it's got a lot of people concerned. And I guess, why won't you go up on stage and ratchet it back? I mean, you've used rhetoric about Islam hates us, surveillance of certain mosques, calling Mexican immigrants rapists. What did you expect? A lot of people say you're reaping what you sow here, that the reason there's so much tension at your rallies is you've used such divisive rhetoric. Do you have any regrets?
The reason there's tension at my rallies is that these people are sick and tired of this country being run by incompetent people that don't know what they're doing on trade deals, where our jobs are being ripped out of our country, Chuck. They're being ripped out. On ISIS, where we can't even beat ISIS with our military. Our military is not being taken care of. We can't even beat ISIS. On our vets, who are being treated horribly. Frankly, they're being treated worse than illegal immigrants. The people are angry at that. They're not angry about something I'm saying. I'm just a messenger. The people are angry about the fact that for 12 years, the workers in this country haven't had a pay increase, Chuck. In 12 years, they haven't had an effective pay.
So you will not,
and that's what they're angry about.
You will not call for ratcheting back the rhetoric. You will not call for it.
Well, I haven't said anything. That I'm just expressing my opinion. What have I said that's wrong? I mean, I talk about illegal immigration. I talk about building a wall. I say Mexico's going to pay for the wall, which they will.
Okay.
And all of these things. I mean, what have I said that's wrong? You tell me. The
All right.
fact is they're really upset with the way our country is being run. It's a disgrace.
I will leave it there. Mr. Trump, stay safe on the trail, and we'll watch you Tuesday. Thank you, sir.
So Donald Trump is unwilling to accept any responsibility for any violence that occurs during his rallies. He's unwilling to accept any responsibility for the rhetoric that he sprouts about Mexicans. And they very rarely do they ever mention the retweets about blacks committing crimes against whites. Those bullshit white supremacist tweets that he was retweeting with totally erroneous information. He accepts no responsibility for probably enraging 1.5 billion Muslims throughout the world. He just accepts no responsibility for anything, but he's willing to accept all the praise for bringing all these people in. I'm assuming he's accepting the praise for that guy sucker punching the black guy at that North Carolina rally. So, like I said, Donald Trump, this is going to be interesting when they get to that convention and Trump doesn't have the 1,237 votes that he needs in order to claim the nomination. And there's a massive revolt when he doesn't get the nomination.